Yo guys, I'm going to be showing a very heckin' quick and easy way to run the latest, most powerful Kaspa node. All right, this is a full node. Keep in mind, a full node, the regular node is pruned because it doesn't need the transaction to be viewable for you. It keeps the UTXOs that verifies the state of the block tag all the way back to the Genesis block. It verifies and validates everything, okay? You do not need an archival node. Don't let that FUD get to your head because that FUD is just FUD and it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. You keep an archival node if you want to, for as long as you want. You look at the transactions that you want to see and you keep that. A bank keeps that transaction history for like no more than 7 years and they throw it out. That's how it works. Otherwise, Kaspa is a privacy chain, and so what? Okay, so now let's look at we're going to be running a Kaspad through terminal. Okay, now this is super easy. We're going to go to Rusty Kaspa. Okay, this is the latest version of GitHub of Kaspa full node. All right, what we're going to do here is go to the side, go down to releases, and that's going to get you the latest release, v1.1.0. Okay, and we're going to go here and just choose your operating system. Okay, I got Windows, so I'm going to choose Windows here. If you got Mac OS, choose Mac. If you got Linux, then choose Linux. All right, so download that. All right, here we are. It says suspicious download blocked. Don't worry about that. Download suspicious file. It's only suspicious because it just doesn't want to think Kaspa is legit. No, because I mean, you have to make sure you're getting it from the reliable source. You're getting it from GitHub, Kaspa.net, Rusty Kaspa. Okay, just make sure all this is correct and you're good to go. You're just going to click it and click extract all. Basically, it's a zip. It's a compressed, so we just need to uncompress it. So let's extract all. And yes, that looks good. And there we go. Get this done. So here we are. We have 4 applications here. We only need to worry about one. That's Kaspad. Okay, Rothschild is crazy though. I'm going to make a whole video just on that, I swear. All right, so we're going to go to CMD. This is a quick little way to open up terminal in this file itself, in this folder itself. And that's all you really need. Okay, now that we're in here, we're going to type Kaspad, and that's it. That's all you need to run a Kaspa node. You could even have custom little arguments here, like retention period days equals 2. this like the data folder for the node, like basically the data you get, and then it gets pruned after 2 days. So this is how many days you want for it to get pruned after. 2 days this is as basically the minimum you can have while still having all the necessary information. So this is good for a node, for a setup that you don't have so much space on your SSD drive. Again, you need an SSD. If you have an external SSD, keep in mind you need to put the right cables in. All right. If you have an external SSD, you need to have a cable that goes to USB-C. So it goes from for example, here's a hard drive I have here, and an SSD, you need to have the USB-C. Okay, you can't be using a USB 3.0 and to still have the SSD capabilities, the speed that is required for this Kaspa node to be able to sync very easily. Another little trick is RAM scale equals basically, I think 1 is the default. 2, if you have a super great computer. 3, 4, if you have if you have a lot of RAM, you have like 32 gigabyte RAM. But I like to multitask on this laptop. I think it has 16 gigabytes RAM. I like to multitask. Even keeping this as default runs perfectly fine. But for the heck of it, I might just do 0.5. I'll try 0.7. Okay, this scales down the RAM just slightly, 30% less, and still gets the node running perfectly fine. Just lets me multitask a little bit better on this laptop. Just a little trick. Anything else you don't really have to worry about. I mean, if you want to turn off UNP thing, the UPN thing, you could disable it. But these are things I'm just going to put. So we're going to allow here. Okay, so there you go. This is how you get your node up and running. Pretty easy, and it happens pretty fast. But the main thing is, though, all right, to get it public, all right, to get your node public, let's click X here. We're going to go to arewepublicyet.com. Okay, this is a nice little Kaspa website. It's run by someone. I think it might even be run by the guy that runs Kaspa.stream. But anyways, this is a nice, reliable Kaspa website, okay? So use my IP. This is a quick way to get your IP address. And then you could also test node connectivity. But right now, I'm not running the node. So I'm going to keep this, I'm not going to show my IP. But you get your IP and you throw it into your browser, okay? Now you have your, this is your router login. It could be username. The password might also be admin. You just have to look it up and see what it is, okay, for your specific router. Define what the password is, whether you log in as an admin, whether you log in as a guest, or whatever it is, okay? We're going to go to advanced. Okay, so then we're going to go to port forwarding here, okay? And we're going to use user-defined name. You call this P2P. I call it P2P. It's like kind of like anonymous and low-key. All right, then we're going to go down to TCP. UDP is very general. It doesn't need both of them, but it's there just, yeah, why not, okay? It works well. So if it works, don't mess with things. All right, to get LAN IP address is pretty easy. We're going to open up terminal and do IP config. And it's just the IP4 address, okay? So you're going to copy that. Be careful, you might copy an extra space. And it may mess up with characters. Delete the extra space. And then you're just going to do add, okay? I had to delete the Kaspad P2P. So I think I had a space. I didn't want the user-defined name to have a space. So I probably needed to do Kaspad like dash P2P. But anyways, I just did P2P and it worked. Like I said, if it works, it works. Don't mess with it. So there we go. Now we have this port forwarding set up. So now our node is going to be publicly accessible, and that's really important. Okay, so now we're going to go here, do CMD. And there's also a way you can do with a config, like setting up the config file. So we're going to do create text file. We're going to call it config. Okay, let's try again. So this is how to set up, a config file. Okay, so this config file is nice. It's a little more convenient. So now you could do just inside here, do retention dash period dash days equals 2. And then what else do we want to do? We could do RAM scale equals 0.7. Yeah, and you could put anything else you want in there. There's a lot of different parameters. To find out those parameters, you do /help or /h. So go CMD again. Now we're going to do Kaspad, and again, H shows you all the parameters, okay? And there's the retention days period, the total number of days of data to keep. You got DevNet, you got TestNet, UTXO index to enable UTXO index. I notice here it says like Kaspad underscore, but pretty sure you just don't need Kaspad. And if there's an underscore that's required, you just like do a dash. Now that I have the config file set up, I still need to do this whole thing, putting that there, and let's go. And there we go. It set up the retention period of 2 days, so I didn't have to type out all the other stuff. Yeah, one more useful command, or should I say config, is to set the app directory. Yeah, like here, for example, goes to my user, app data, local, rusty Kaspa, and that's where all the gigabytes get stored. I mean, it could be like 60 gigabytes of within the 2 day period, the retention period. You could store like something like 60 gigabytes pretty easily. So to run it with the config file, with everything, the configuration stuff from the text file that I have here, I made this little script as well. I could share it, probably upload it to like GitHub or something like that. It's pretty cool. I could just like click enter. I can manage arguments, basically those the configurations for any single one of these, but in this case, I'm just using Kaspad. So I could like go here, manage the arguments. Which arguments do I want to manage? I go to like one Kaspad, click my choice. I could view all arguments, pressing the key to continue. I have the current arguments right here, RAM scale, retention period. I could add new argument, remove. Let me go back to the main menu. So this is like a little cool thing that I whipped up with some vibe coding. But if we just run it, I just need to click enter and it runs. So I don't have to type even the config. So I don't even have to type it out or anything like that. I just have to click this, double click, click enter, and booyah, it's running. All right, so I'll share this little command thing in the description as well. This is for Windows. This one is for MacBook, and Linux. So depending on whatever one you want. And it uses its own config file, and this is the config file it uses. So this is for Kaspad. It uses these config arguments. There you go. Super easy, super awesome, and honestly, gotta love it. Run a Kaspa node and help decentralize the network. Let's check out Kaspa node. This is also super cool. It's not just on Kaspa stream, but check this out. Kaspa Globe. This is sick, man. Check out all the nodes out there. Honestly, really cool. Kaspa stream, of course, they have their own little node section. I've been hovering around like 400 public nodes for a while now. Time to get that number up. And this is Kaspad 1.0, 1.1.0. So this, I've noticed, does dramatically decrease, like, for example, even like my computer fans. Okay, when I was running Kaspa NG, I mean, it was awesome. I saw the block DAG in the background and it looked sick. I mean, you can't get something looking cooler than that. But it's definitely a little bit heavier on the computer, on the processing, on the RAM, etc., and the CPU perhaps as well, especially if you have the block DAG up and running. But this in the command line, just running a little simple, I mean, you saw how easy it is. Just one little click and boom, you got it going. This, I've noticed, does not put my laptop fan like nearly as much as it used to do. So this is very lightweight. Multitasking is fine, no issue with it. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty great. So you really don't need much to run a node. You really don't. Okay, if you're not sure if you can run it, just try. Okay, even if you have only 8 gigabytes of RAM and your processor isn't that good, just give it a try. Give it a shot. Because even with 8 gigabytes of RAM, I really do think you can run a node, even with 8 gigabytes. That's like the bare minimum. Of course, it's recommended to have at least 16 gigabytes. That's recommended. 32 is really looking out there for like when Kaspa increases that block speed and gets to like 30 blocks per second, like 100 blocks per second. That 32 gigabyte RAM is really going to come in clutch. So having 32 gigabytes RAM is kind of future-proofing your node. If you have 16 gigabytes, you're more than this laptop here has 16 gigabytes. It's more than enough. If you have 8 gigabytes, you still can help decentralize the network right now, especially when the Kaspa network, it's not nothing too much is going on. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, especially with Eager Labs. There's a lot of testing, a lot of transactions, even from Casplex. You see here, a lot of transactions have been going on the past few days and hours, I should say. Payloads, a whole ton of payloads from all these different protocols. Looks great. So a lot to be excited for. Run a node, help decentralize the network. And it's extremely important because, okay, running a node doesn't earn you money, okay? But it indirectly increases the value of your Kaspa investment, okay? Assuming, of course, you're holding some sort of investment of Kaspa, because it strengthens the decentralization and, by extension, the security. We'll be seeing the security actually playing a very large role, especially with DAG Night. When DAG Night comes around, because bad actors are going to have to combat good, honest nodes as well. So nodes are actually going to be providing a security impact of Kaspa, not just to decentralize Kaspa, but also to increase the security of the block DAG. I'm going to have to explain that in detail, and that goes in very strong relation with DAG Night and everything that comes forward, especially with high blocks per second in transaction per second. So basically, you're indirectly increasing the value of every coin by running a node. Task Manager gets you an idea of how much activity it's being required to run this node, and I'm having a lot of different things open. You see, Chrome is taking up a lot of it, OBS as well. And where's my node? Like, my node is Kaspad. Here we go. Maybe it takes up like 10% of the memory and taking up a chunk of the CPU. So, and a network disk, etc. So mining Kaspa is different than running a Kaspa node. You can mine to your own Kaspa node with a stratum bridge or something like that. I don't mine on this laptop. I don't have an ASIC that mines here. I used to run a lot of ASICs, and now I don't. I just have the coin. I bought the coin outright. But when VProgs release and Covenants release and all that releases, ZK releases on DAGnet, when zero knowledge proof releases on Kaspa, you're going to be able to run your own ZK prover. And with that prover, it requires GPU. So if you have some GPUs laying around, GPUs cannot really mine Kaspa effectively at all. Okay, so you need a customized computer, an ASIC, to mine Kaspa effectively. But with a GPU, you're going to now be able to prove the ZK proofs, provide the ZK proofs and verify. Doing so is securing basically the DeFi of Kaspa, the VProgs and Covenants and all of that. You're going to be able to earn from it by being an honest, reliable ZK prover with your node. You're going to be able to earn and earn by just having some GPUs active. You have a GPU running on your laptop, your computer. Boom, there you go. Okay, that's just the general idea of it. Okay, I don't know the exact details. Maybe you're going to have to stake some Kaspa with it. I don't know exactly. So at least running your own Kaspa node gets you some experience of like, all right, what's it like to run a node? So once you're running a Kaspa node, it's like, all right, so what's it like to run a prover node, a ZK prover node for the Kaspa L1? Even if you want to look into how to run a node for Eager Labs or Casplex or any other indexer like Cassia, they have their own indexer. K-Social, they have their own indexer. What it's like to run. So once you already know how to run a Kaspa node, all these other nodes are going to be run in a very similar fashion. It gets you that experience, and it's honestly great supporting the ecosystem like this because it decentralizes it, and that is the strength. The strength of a decentralized network is invaluable. That is actual security. You're not going to have a single risk, a single fault point that traditional centralized systems have. So that's the beauty of it. All right, guys, stay bullish, run your own node, and peace out.